Matthew chapter 11. I want to take a look, and we'll start at verse number 11. Better yet, I'll go back to number 7. And it reads, "And as they departed, Jesus began to say unto the multitudes concerning John, What went ye out into the wilderness to see? A reed shaken with the wind? But what went ye out for to see? A man clothed in soft raiment? Behold, they that wear soft clothing are in kings' houses. But what went ye out to see? A prophet? Yea, I say unto you, more than a prophet. For this is he of whom it is written, Behold, I send my messenger before thy face, which shall prepare thy way before thee. Verily I say unto you, among them that are born of women, there hath not risen a greater than John the Baptist, notwithstanding he that is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. And from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven suffereth violence, and the violent take it by force." You may be seated. From the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven suffereth violence, and the violent take it by force. Now I want to take a look at that in the New Living Translation. And it reads like this. And I'll start reading again from verse number 11. "I'll tell you the truth, for of all who have ever lived, none is greater than John the Baptist. Yet even the least person in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he is. And from the time John the Baptist began preaching until now, the kingdom of heaven has been forcefully advancing, and violent people are attacking it. And from the time John the Baptist began preaching until now, the kingdom of heaven has been forcefully advancing, and violent people are attacking it." And what I want to talk about is something that we talked about at the beginning of the year. That this year, we are forcefully advancing. We are forcefully advancing. This year, this is Jesus talking, and he's talking about John the Baptist. And he says, listen, John was a great man, and there's none greater. But then he says, in the kingdom of heaven, the least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. In other words, he was saying, John the Baptist, he's the one that was opening the way for the kingdom, which is Jesus, the kingdom to come.
All right.
He was preparing the way. So out of all the prophets, he was the one that was preparing the way and the one who baptized Jesus. And so here Jesus is talking and saying that if we're just going to talk about prophets, and we're going to talk about things that people do, there's none greater. Because he was the one that was to usher in the presence of Jesus, the very one, Jesus, the power, the kingdom, the dominion that was lost by the first Adam.
That's right.
He was the one to usher in. He was the closest one. Not to say, he's coming. He was the one to say, here he is. I see him coming now. Not just the prophet saying, okay, he's coming, he's coming, he's coming. And they were all great and almighty. But Jesus said, listen, no matter how relevant John the Baptist was, and no matter how close he was, and no matter how great he was, the least in the kingdom is greater than he. And then he says, since the day that John the Baptist began preaching, the kingdom of heaven has been forcefully advancing. King James Version says it like this, that the kingdom suffered violence, and the violent take it by force. That's been preached for many years. But there comes a time to where you have to stop proclaiming and do what you say. And there are a lot of people that are still proclaiming it, but not doing anything. Let me say it this way. There are a lot of people saying, I'm delivered, I'm healed, I'm set free, but they're not forcefully advancing in the things that they're saying. And in the things that have been spoken over their lives, and in the things that they've been laid hands on, they've fallen out on the floor, they've run around the church, they've shouted it out, they've danced it out, they've yelled it out, or so they thought, and they wake up and they're the same individuals because tomorrow they have to live it.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
And we're at a time that, and as I was just seeking God, I said, God, what is it that I'm to release here on this evening? God says, forcefully advance. Advance and take what is yours. Take what I have given you and take it by force. Take it in such a way that no one's coming after it.
That's right.
When you take possession of something, there's a way that you can walk up and just kind of take something that's yours. And then there's a way you can walk up and say, excuse me. When you know somebody has something, it's yours, you're not supposed to go up and just say, excuse me, that's my iPad and I paid, this amount of money for it. Would you give it back to me, please? Here they are holding your stuff and they're looking at you expecting you not to say anything. You don't even have to say excuse me. You don't have to say a word. Just walk up and take it back and go about your business. You don't have to go back and you don't have to walk up and take it and try and instigate a fight or anything. Take it and go about your business. Go and take something else that belongs to you.
That's right.
God says forcefully advance. Since the days of since John the Baptist began preaching, the kingdom has been under attack.
All right.
For before John came, all the prophets and the law of Moses looked forward to this present time. And if you are willing to accept what I say, he is Elijah, the one the prophets said would come. Anyone with ears to hear should listen and understand. To what can I compare this generation? It is like children playing a game in the public square.
All right.
They complain to their friends. We played wedding songs and you didn't dance. So we played funeral songs and you didn't mourn. This is Jesus talking about people. This is Jesus. He says, to what can I compare this generation? Whiners and complainers. Verse 18. For John didn't spend his time eating and drinking, and you say he's possessed by a demon. The Son of Man, on the other hand, feasts and drinks, and you say he's a glutton and a drunkard and a friend of the tax collectors and of the sinners. But wisdom is shown to be right by its results. I'm still reading New Living Translation. Just so we don't get confused. What does the King James Version say? How does it say it? Starting back with verse number 16. But whereunto shall I liken this generation? It is like unto children sitting in the markets and calling unto their fellows and saying, we have piped unto you and you've not danced. We have mourned unto you and you've not lamented. For John came, neither eating nor drinking, they say he hath the devil. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, behold, a man gluttonous and a winebibber, a friend of the publicans and sinners, but wisdom is justified of her children. He says, you justify wisdom by the results. If you want to know how wise you are, we look at results. Wisdom is justified, is proven by results. Now, we must understand is that when someone is in the process of getting results, we can't determine whether they are wise or not at all times. Because the process is not the same thing as the results.
Okay.
And if you just look at a process, sometimes it can look like someone is losing when in all actuality, they're winning. You look at the process of what it is to actually get a harvest. The farmer has to go out and tear up the ground. And for someone who doesn't understand that, it can look like he's just messing things up because he goes out and he makes a mess. He chops up everything and tears up the ground. Then he goes back and lays pretty rows and all types of other stuff. If you look at the process and you don't understand the process, you can think that it's a total mess. But he says wisdom is justified by the results. So we should be looking for results, or as the Word of God would talk in another place, fruit. You know, the tree by the fruit that it bears. We should be looking for fruit. And understand that it takes time to bring forth fruit.
Yes, it does.
I didn't say we should be looking for miracles. I said we should be looking for fruit. And what we have, Apostle Adams, is a lot of people, a generation of whiners and complainers, and they don't mind having false fruit. And they're looking even for leaders with false fruit. Nice cars and nice houses and nice suits and nice clothes and they have this degree and that degree, but they have no fruit. When you line it up with the Word of God, they have no fruit. And to mask that, what they're doing now is preaching more grace than holiness.
That's right.
And not understanding that grace leads you into holiness. It's all combined. So they're now trying to separate grace from holiness. Because if we can separate that from holiness, and that says you don't have to live right.
Yes.
You're safe. You don't have to live right. And if they can